Below the kilometer-thick ice sheet of Antarctica, there is a world which we hardly know anything about. An international research team has now succeeded in digging a 1,000-meter deep hole and is now drilling a lake directly beneath a glacier. A mad undertaking. More than that, unexpected discoveries were made. Click some science and fiction, watch exciting science videos 3 times a week right here. Subscribe to the channel and don't miss out on anything. A warm welcome.
1, 2, 3.
What processes take place under the Antarctic ice sheet? What does it look like there? And how can we imagine the flow of water therein? Most probably, these unexplored regions also conceal organisms of which we don't even know anything yet. It is not without reason that the scientific journal Nature once called the world under the eternal ice of Antarctica the largest unexplored ecosystem on the planet. Because in order to reach the corresponding depth, it takes days of drilling. However, an international research team has now achieved a decisive success that helps us to learn more about the mysterious parts of our planet. At the end of December 2018, it was a done deal. For several days, a high pressure and hot water drill had worked its way through a layer of ice almost 1,100 meters thick. The research team had previously transported the 500-ton equipment required for this to the remote location in the south of Antarctica for 2 months. But all the work was not in vain. The research team reached the Antarctic subglacial lake called Merthyr Lake, 600 kilometers from the South Pole. It covers an area of 160 square kilometers and is twice the size of Manhattan. Its depth is estimated to be 10 to 15 meters. And this venture is a huge success because this is only the second time in human history that such a subglacial lake, i.e. a lake under a glacier, could be drilled directly. In the 1990s, lakes and rivers below the ice layer were detected by means of a radar system. Some of these lakes have been cut off from the outside world for 120,000 years. Nevertheless, little is known about these areas to this day. Such lakes are probably created due to the Earth's crust being warmer than the ice cover above it. The rock as such functions as a kind of heat source and ensures that the ice cover melts from below. In 2013, another subglacial lake, Lake Whillans, was drilled. The investigations showed that despite the extreme conditions down there, plenty of microbial life is possible. However, there were no signs of higher life levels at that time. The experts were therefore very curious as to what the analysis of their samples would reveal this time around. And this time, too, the international research team was with great effort able to take a water sample through the drilled shaft in the ice. And indeed, countless organisms lurk in the icy waters of Lake Mercer. David Harwood, one of the scientists involved, comments, "My task in the project is to search for fossil remains of diatoms. They were supposed to date back to the time when the ice had receded and the sea had penetrated far into the West Antarctic. As I searched the mud for these diatoms, I discovered the remains of a tank that looked like a tiny crustacean. The chitin of the tank was aged, stained and dark. The scientists were thus able to detect not only microbes and diatoms, but also traces of tiny animals, fungi and plants. However, this discovery of crustaceans and tardigrades, so-called tardigrada, surprised the research team itself. Even though all the animals in the samples analyzed so far were dead, the experts believe that living organisms may well be found down there. Awesome. The big question is, how could these complex organisms get into the icy cold and dark waters, and how could they survive in the bitterly cold lakes without sunlight? So far, the answer to this are mere speculations. Several million years ago, the ice over Lake Mercer was still a sea. At that time, the diatoms that have now been tracked down probably lived in this region. According to the research team, the tardigrades and crabs are probably much younger and lived a few thousand or 10,000 years ago in ponds in the surrounding mountains. How they actually got into the lake is still unclear. According to the research team, it is conceivable that the marine animals were washed in when the Antarctic ice was thinner. Later on, they locked the ice sheet into the icy lakes. A final answer to this mystery, however, could only be given by further analysis in the laboratory. Did the bears and crustaceans actually live miles deep in the dark ice? In any case, the team of authors of the current studies assumes that the survival of these organisms under the Antarctic ice is theoretically possible. The living beings could have fed on bacteria and oxygen, which is probably present in sufficient quantities. The exact analysis and interpretation of the collected samples will probably take a few more years, but the chances are high that we can better understand life forms that have not seen the sun for centuries. This undertaking will also certainly contribute to the understanding of the Antarctic's history, and it is also not far-fetched that another undiscovered species will be tracked down, which has been hiding under the thick ice layer for countless years. Scientist John Briscoe comments. In addition, this biosphere can be compared with potential habitats deep in Mars or on the ice-covered moons of Saturn and Jupiter. So the habitats where we suspect extraterrestrial life could theoretically exist or remains of it. The findings of Mercer Lake could therefore also provide exciting indications of what kind of life on planets could exist in our solar system. Or do aliens perhaps already live on our Earth? Click here to watch our video to learn more about this theory, and don't forget to tell other science fans about us. Stay tuned and see you soon.